Welcome back to XRP Update. Today we're discussing a topic that sounds unbelievable on the surface, but becomes increasingly interesting the deeper you analyze it. Every major financial revolution has created individuals whose wealth seemed impossible just a few years earlier. At one point, becoming a billionaire sounded unrealistic. Today, the world has multiple billionaires and even centibillionaires. Now, conversations are beginning to shift towards something even bigger, the possibility of the world's first crypto trillionaires. Many people immediately dismiss this idea because they measure the future using today's numbers. But history has repeatedly shown that transformational technologies create transformational wealth. The internet created companies worth trillions of dollars. Artificial intelligence is creating entirely new industries. And according to many long-term blockchain supporters, digital assets may become the foundation of the next financial revolution. This discussion begins with Elon Musk. Recent reports and estimates surrounding Elon Musk's business empire continue to demonstrate how quickly valuations can grow when a company becomes essential infrastructure. Years ago, many people thought Tesla's valuation was impossible. Later, SpaceX achieved valuations that few believed realistic. Every stage of growth seemed unbelievable until it happened. Supporters of XRP believe the same principle could eventually apply to blockchain infrastructure. The argument is not simply that XRP's price could increase. The argument is that the entire global financial system is gradually transitioning toward digital settlement, tokenization, and blockchain-based liquidity. If that transformation occurs, then companies operating within that ecosystem could become dramatically more valuable than traditional businesses. This is why many long-term supporters believe the next generation of trillion-dollar fortunes may not come from automobiles or social media, but from financial infrastructure. One of the most interesting ideas discussed is Ripple's future valuation if it eventually becomes a publicly traded company. Today, many people evaluate Ripple based on current private valuations, but supporters argue that such calculations may overlook one enormous factor: the XRP ecosystem itself. For years, discussions have centered around Ripple's escrow holdings and how much XRP may ultimately belong to the company versus other entities or stakeholders. While the exact ownership structure remains a subject of debate, many believe greater disclosure would naturally occur if Ripple eventually pursued an initial public offering. Now consider a hypothetical scenario. If XRP were to appreciate significantly over the coming years, even a fraction of billions of XRP held by Ripple could dramatically transform the company's balance sheet. Suddenly, what appears impossible today could become mathematically understandable under a completely different valuation model. This is why supporters argue that judging future possibilities solely through today's numbers may be misleading. Another fascinating discussion involves Elon Musk's broader technological ecosystem. Many people think of SpaceX simply as a rocket company. Others think of Starlink simply as an internet provider. But supporters believe these projects could become pieces of a much larger digital infrastructure. For years, speculation has existed regarding blockchain integration with satellite networks and global communication systems. The theory suggests that high-speed global connectivity combined with decentralized financial infrastructure could support future payment networks capable of operating virtually anywhere in the world. Whether or not every theory ultimately proves correct, one fact remains undeniable. Starlink continues expanding internet access into locations previously considered difficult or impossible to serve. Blockchain technology, meanwhile, continues expanding methods for transferring value digitally. Supporters therefore ask a simple question. If communication networks are becoming global, why wouldn't financial networks evolve in the same direction? Another topic attracting enormous attention is X-money. Elon Musk has repeatedly expressed admiration for China's WeChat ecosystem, where messaging, payments, commerce, and financial services exist within a single platform. For years, observers have speculated that a similar super app could eventually emerge in the United States. Many XRP supporters believe blockchain technology may play an important role in such an ecosystem. Some speculate that behind the user interface, blockchain networks could facilitate settlement while consumers experience only fast, seamless transactions. Whether XRP, Stellar, or another technology becomes part of such systems remains speculative. But the discussion illustrates how many supporters think beyond today's crypto market and instead focus on tomorrow's financial architecture. The transcript also revisits Greg Kidd, a figure who has appeared throughout multiple stages of fintech history. According to the discussion, Greg Kidd worked alongside talented developers who later pursued projects that became highly influential within technology and digital finance. One developer became associated with work on the Ripple protocol. Another was Jack Dorsey, who would go on to play a major role in creating Twitter. Supporters find these connections fascinating because they illustrate how small networks of innovators often influence multiple revolutionary technologies. Silicon Valley has always been a place where entrepreneurs, engineers, investors, and payment specialists collaborate across different companies and projects. This interconnected environment has led many observers to believe that relationships behind the scenes may be even more significant than the public realizes. And that brings us back to the central question. Are we simply watching another cryptocurrency cycle? Or are we witnessing the construction of an entirely new financial system where blockchain infrastructure becomes as important as the internet itself? For many long-term XRP supporters, the answer is already becoming clear. As we continue today's discussion, let's move beyond company valuations and examine something that may be even more important: the infrastructure being built behind the scenes. Because according to many long-term XRP supporters, the biggest opportunity isn't simply owning a digital asset. It's understanding the financial system that is gradually being created around it. For years, one of the most interesting theories discussed within the XRP community has been the relationship between blockchain technology and global communications infrastructure. Think about how the modern world operates. Every second, billions of messages travel across the internet. Businesses communicate instantly. Banks transfer information across continents. Artificial intelligence processes enormous amounts of data in real time. Now imagine a future where value moves with the same speed that information moves today. Supporters believe that is exactly where blockchain technology is heading. This is why projects like Starlink attract so much attention. Starlink's mission is to provide high-speed internet access across the globe, including remote locations that traditional infrastructure struggles to reach. If communication becomes truly global and uninterrupted, supporters naturally ask another question. Could financial infrastructure also become global and uninterrupted? Many believe blockchain networks are designed for precisely that purpose. Over the years, some supporters have speculated that satellite technology, decentralized networks, and blockchain systems could eventually complement one another within a larger digital economy. Whether every detail of that vision becomes reality remains uncertain, but the idea itself reflects how many investors think far beyond daily price movements. Another major topic discussed is the evolution of the so-called super app. Around the world, certain applications already allow users to chat, shop, pay bills, transfer money, and access financial services without leaving a single platform. For years, Elon Musk has publicly spoken about creating something similar for the United States. Supporters believe that if such a platform eventually emerges, seamless digital payments will become one of its most important features. And that leads directly back to blockchain. Behind every user-friendly application lies complex infrastructure. Consumers simply tap a button. Behind the scenes, networks verify identity, transfer value, record transactions, and settle payments. Many XRP supporters believe blockchain technology could become part of that invisible infrastructure powering future digital commerce. The discussion then turns toward Greg Kidd, a figure whose career intersects with several important developments in financial technology. According to the transcript, Greg Kidd worked alongside talented software developers who later contributed to influential technology projects. One became associated with work involving the Ripple protocol. Another was Jack Dorsey, who would later help create Twitter. Supporters view these connections as evidence that innovation often emerges from relatively small groups of entrepreneurs and engineers whose influence spreads across multiple industries. Silicon Valley has always operated this way. The same investors, programmers, and founders frequently appear across different groundbreaking companies. Because of this, many XRP supporters believe there may be deeper relationships within the fintech ecosystem than the public fully understands. Whether those theories ultimately prove accurate is impossible to know. However, one fact is undeniable. Financial technology continues evolving through collaboration between payments experts, software developers, investors, and global institutions. Another interesting point raised in the discussion involves public narratives. Every major innovation experiences skepticism. The internet was criticized. Electric vehicles were criticized. Artificial intelligence continues to be debated today. Blockchain technology is no different. Supporters argue that many people dismiss XRP not because they understand it and disagree, but because they evaluate tomorrow's technology using yesterday's assumptions. History suggests that transformational innovations often appear unrealistic before becoming ordinary. This brings us to another major development discussed in the transcript: regulatory clarity. For years, uncertainty surrounding digital assets has slowed institutional adoption. Large financial organizations generally prefer operating within clearly defined regulatory frameworks before committing significant resources. According to updates discussed, lawmakers continue working on legislation designed to establish clearer rules for the digital asset industry. Supporters believe that greater regulatory clarity could become one of the most important catalysts for institutional participation. The discussion also references comments from major industry figures who continue expressing optimism that legislation can move forward despite political disagreements. Their argument is straightforward: clear rules benefit innovation, clear rules benefit businesses, and ultimately, clear rules benefit investors by reducing uncertainty. Of course, politics can complicate the process. Different groups have different priorities, and negotiations often take time. But supporters argue that the overall direction remains positive because both industry participants and policymakers increasingly recognize the importance of digital financial infrastructure. Perhaps the biggest takeaway from this entire discussion is perspective. Most people evaluate today's market. Long-term investors attempt to evaluate tomorrow's system. Those are two completely different exercises. One focuses on current price. The other focuses on future utility. And according to many XRP supporters, understanding that distinction may ultimately determine who recognizes the opportunity before everyone else does. As we wrap up today's discussion, one thing becomes increasingly clear. The biggest opportunities in history have almost always looked unrealistic before they became obvious. Whether it was the internet, smartphones, or artificial intelligence, the majority of people doubted them in their early stages. Blockchain technology may be following a similar path. For many long-term XRP supporters, the story is much bigger than today's price chart. They believe the real opportunity lies in the global shift toward tokenization, digital payments, and a new financial infrastructure where blockchain plays a central role. Whether those expectations are ultimately fulfilled is something only time will answer. But one thing is certain: the financial world is changing rapidly, and institutions are paying close attention. That's why successful investors often focus less on daily market emotions and more on long-term developments. Fear comes and goes, headlines change every day, but infrastructure takes years to build. Those who understand the bigger picture often make decisions based on where the world is heading, rather than where the market happens to be today. Of course, no investment is guaranteed, and no one can predict the future with certainty. Every investment carries risk, and everyone should conduct their own research before making financial decisions. This video is intended for educational and informational purposes only, and should not be considered financial or investment advice. If you enjoyed this analysis and want more in-depth coverage of XRP, institutional adoption, blockchain innovation, and the future of digital finance, make sure to subscribe to XRP Update, turn on notifications, and share this video with anyone who wants to stay ahead of one of the biggest financial transformations of our generation. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next XRP update. Thank you for watching.